Hello and welcome. Thanks for thanks for coming. For the whoever's here is probably my mom. Is gonna hang out with me tonight. I figured I would introduce myself at least first, although I'm pretty sure it's only people that know me that are going to be watching. Just for posterity and just for the sake of introducing myself to anybody that might want to know who I am. Should this be found after the world is but dust? After the collapse of 2026. I'm Drew. I'm just doing this. Why am I doing this? I don't know. I don't know if anybody's going to be entertained in any kind of way. Um, but I have friends that have told me while we watch movies that the input that I have has been interesting or um, funny or insightful or whatever. And they're like, hey, you should talk about movies on YouTube, but there's no real context in order to just talk about things or just bring up scenes. So I figured a good way is to just do the way that I had done it was to sit down and watch the movie with someone. And as it progresses, something either comes to mind or whatever the case, and just say it then. So it's kind of happening while it happens, and it's not really kind of meant to be looked back upon. So um, very excited to get going. I figured I'd start doing this with my favorite movie, The Princess Bride. Um, if I'm going to continue to do this, I'm going to typically do movies that you can watch on streaming. Personally, I've owned this movie several times. I bought it on DVD. I bought the collector's edition on DVD. I bought the collector's edition on Blu-ray. And then after I got rid of my physical media, I bought it on Amazon Prime to borrow in perpetuity, again, until the collapse in 2026. So I'll have it a little bit longer, but you can get it on Disney Plus, as it was originally produced by Fox, and now Princess Buttercup is a Disney princess. So I'll typically pick movies that you can get on stream, uh, because that way the most amount of people probably would have access to it. I have just using regular YouTube Live. It doesn't have any picture in picture, so I'll just let you queue it up and then tell you when I begin the movie, so you can kind of sync it in such a way. Um, I'm not going to do what a lot of people do, which is like quote stuff during the movie. I'm not going to be that annoying person. Just going to pipe in when I have something interesting to say about it. So hopefully, it won't fuck with your timing too much. Also, this might bother you that I'm only doing this through one ear. I'm just doing that to kind of make sure I don't go too loud, or also to make sure that I can hear my dog. She's been having some issues lately. So if I need to run out and let her outside, then I got to be able to hear her scratch at the door, come fussing. So um, I'm having some fun this evening. So that might affect it as well. I don't want to get too loud. So anyway, yeah, I hope you got Princess Bride queued up. You don't really need to have my face around anywhere, kind of just at a volume that's suitable around you. Um, I don't do tricks or nothing, so there's no real need to have my mug up while you're watching this great movie. You just can kind of hear my voice, um, which may be even worse. But okay, all right, here we go. So I'm going to begin. If you got it queued up, we're going to begin with Fred Savage coughing here in 3, 2, 1. Let's do it. There it is, and it's Fox. So we come out in 1987. Not even any bit sound. Pew. Fred Savage, who's barely aged since this. Cool that you can actually put contextually a little bit of even location based on the fact that he's wearing the bear shirt, that he's got the fridge poster. It's a cool exposition tool without ever really having to give you the card and tell you where we are. Like we know this is a kid in the Midwest. You know, he has a very simple life in the Midwest, as the Midwesterners do. And here comes Peter Falk. Who does he now match this? Who knows? I'm going to tell my grandkids it's when I was your age, television was pretty much everything. It was you can get access to books on television, you can get access to movies on television. Another cool aspect about the fact that William Goldman, who also wrote The Princess Bride, the book, um, writes the movie, and he kind of puts this in because there's this whole forward part about basically a fake story about how he came up with The Princess Bride, and then the necessity of making this part of the movie is very interesting because plot wise it makes no difference, but it's just a cool element, uh, which is great for fantasy too, not just comedies. But oh, Carrie Ellis. Robin Wright was like incredibly young when she made this movie. I mean, obviously, when I grew up seeing Robin Wright, uh, it was in movies, but uh, she was apparently just a soap opera actress before she got this, and then was able to transition, which was pretty incredible. 'Cause not a lot of soap opera actors usually get, we'll say, to the next level. Hmm. And a great comedic. Is this a kissing book? Sounds like a Fallout Boy song. Question here: who has the better hair? Is it Carrie or is it Robin? Murdered by Pirates is Good is obviously the death metal band name. Yeah, this is that's soap opera right there. One of the cool things that I like about Rob Reiner, I won't say anything about how he is as a person, just talking about him as a filmmaker is that he really, at least like early on, like with this is Spinal Tap and this and uh like when Harry Met Sally and A Few Good Men, like his casting choices are really fucking good. Like the people that he brought in to make these movies, the actors are like so great for their part. And uh obviously when I was watching this as a kid, like, I hated Humperdinck and thought he was, fucking trash and loved when Wesley got him in the end. But going back through and the more and more I watch it, the older I got and appreciated more aspects of it. Like I really love Chris Sarandon as a Humperdinck because he's so like everybody up till Billy Crystal, and you can even argue Billy Crystal is over the top. Everybody is borderline ridiculous. There's no like we laugh at everybody that's kind of coming through here, but they're never just so over the top that you're like, fuck that. And Chris Sarandon rides that line so well in this movie. He's so fucking good. Wallace Shawn, could you ever believe him as a bad guy? Oddly enough, he's the worst of the three. Andre the Giant. Great script. Potomac. This I laugh at this boat that they're on because it seems too small to be what it looks like, and it also seems too large to be anything else. Like, it's an incredibly small boat that's supposed to look like a large ship or something, but it's not big. It's a very tiny ship, but it's big. If that made any sense, like I don't know if I've seen many of these. It just doesn't seem like a long boat, but it's huge. Anybody want a peanut? And here's the soundstage. I was like, especially there's a lot of movies in the 80s and like the late 70s where the scope of the thing they're making, this is really in science fiction, you see it a lot. Like Escape from New York is a great example of just like maybe it just didn't have enough money to make the movie that it should have been, but they just make it with what they have and they do the best they can. And there's a lot of, I would say, honesty to those movies. The Princess Bride has that kind of charm. Like you can tell it's a soundstage. You can tell they're not on water, that this is all controlled. And later in the sword fight where you can see they landed on pads and everything. Now they would just CG all that stuff out, and make everything as refined as possible to make everything seem like there's always action going on, or when nothing is happening, because this is all about the exchange, right? Um, but there's a lot of honesty to those that were made practically and made probably by a lot of people that never made that type of thing before, you know? Um, so I enjoy that about it, which is another reason why I would hate if they ever remade this. Eels for, you know, some reason where they are, they got eels. Again, is that eel really intimidating? Does anybody? No, obviously not. We would never look at it like that, but looks like a fucking rubber sock puppet. Well, that's a choice in here. Like, there's a part like there's he's supposed to talk over it. It seems like something that was, I could actually see if that was the case, whether it's cut like that, because a friend of mine got me a copy of the shooting script of this movie, so maybe I'll look at that later and see if that's what it was meant for. Here comes some more of that honesty, where he's climbing, and you can tell it's just a rope that they have on a reel, and they're not moving anywhere, and they're just kind of moving this plate down. Uh, from what I understand, Andre the Giant, he was not able to handle having anybody on him for a long period of time. I mean, he was a giant and all, but he had a lot of problems, with his body. I mean, how could you not? And plus, he, fucking drank all the time. But so a lot of the times, like even when it was just her, if he had to carry Robin, she said that they would have a harness and everything too, because he couldn't just handle her as whatever. He needed a lot of assistance with that. They're just moving the set like they're moving up a ramp, something. Just and you could tell that they're dolls. It's like having Muppets attached to you. Very good arms. It's, again, the part of the charm that this has is there's still seemingly a very like kind of vaudevillian aspect to the comedy, which is really like it's the this movie straddles so many genres of almost being it's a fantasy, it's a romance, it's action, it's slapstick, but we're also about to witness, I mean, inarguably one of the greatest sword fights captured on film, and where you know Carrie always talks about in his book that as soon as he got the part, he had to go and learn how to do this thing, you know, and um, a tribute to these two guys who are not only performing just great comedic roles and having to be these characters, but now they have to do something so physically difficult, and it has to be them. Every time their swords touch, so anything other than the flips, it's them. They do this sword fight. They move up and down the terrain. They use their left hands. You see, though, they talk to each other. Um, and this movie was not big. This movie didn't make a lot of money uh, in the theater because again, I don't think people really knew what to think of it. Um, but now that it's found its out, you think about just the dedication these two dudes had to making this scene work um, is incredible. Uh, and I'm forwarding all of this and stepping over these great jokes because I don't want to talk too much during the fight scene, and I want to enjoy it and the whole lead up to when Wesley and Inigo Montoya are together. I think we have to consider Inigo probably like one of the best anti-heroes in film, right? Like he's got to be up there with like Han Solo and Mal Reynolds, who's just a rip off of Han Solo, but like the guy who's this movie has an interesting thing, at least I'd never seen when I was growing up, are likable villains. Fezzik and Inigo start out as people you're supposed to believe are ill intentioned, that they're bad guys, that they're kidnappers, and they're doing all this, but you end up finding out that that's not really what they are. And so they're redemptive, um, but are still self motivated, or at least Inigo is, Here we go. This is one of the greatest scenes ever. This is one of my favorite scenes of all time, of anything. Like he gives him the sword back, which is well mannered villains. That's what Guy Ritchie built his whole career on. Another great aspect of comedy is not just having a joke. Literally, the change of tone is what makes something funny, like he just does with it. Oh, the fight. When he's talking, while talking while doing all of these movements. There's some honesty. Yeah, it's good. It's part of the charm. This this cut is so great with how they skew him. Here he goes straight to the back, right there, and he's right next to it. Back to it. Now it's even crazier, faster. Wire, him really catching this in that take. Switch hands. The coconut clap. Gotta love the score. Strings and horns. That's what makes fantasy. Strings and horns. Part of what makes Wallace Shawn perfect for that, and like nothing he said about that was funny. When he says, "Pick up a rock, hide behind it. This dude's gonna come up, and when his head is in view, hit it with the rock." It's not inherently funny, but just hearing him do it, and you could probably hear a bunch of other people do it, and they would probably over exaggerate it and go really physically high until that part. But he just hits it right at the right point. And because his voice is funny, we find it funny. Part of why he's perfect for it. Little explodable rocks that Andre the Giant throws. This is earlier where Andre was drunk. He got in trouble actually during this. There were a lot of really late mornings where he would take out uh, Carrie and the rest of the guys like the night before, and Andre the Giant was a legendary drinker. He would drink bottles of vodka like every day, and so he would take everybody out to get trash, and they'd show up hungover. So Reiner had to talk to him about it. And we did wear masks in the future for a couple of years. Prognostication. This came out the same year as The Simpsons. Good old talking through the chokehold. I met some movies that can do it. Who's the better tracker, Humperdinck or Aragorn? You tell me. He susses out two, actually three of these crime scenes. So for anybody, somebody that just joined, if you want to catch up here, we're watching The Princess Bride. We're at about a minute nine, sorry, we are currently at we're about 30 minutes into the movie where he's just about to sit down with Wallace Shawn and do the battle of wits. If you want to join us at 30 minutes, we'll probably be about there. Yeah, 30 minutes in. Reese. Wallace Shawn has been able to set out a platter of fruits and cheese. He only had that satchel. Was that what was in the satchel? Like no other necessities or anything else? Like he's like no books of any kind. He's like, I gotta bring my apples and my wine. And he brought two glasses, which again is another why does he pack two? I mean, obviously it's I'm not gonna like fie on it for being plot ridiculous, but because the scene's obviously what you guys should also watch during COVID when Jason Reitman had a bunch of people, a bunch of actors recreate scenes from this movie in their homes, in a very uh, ridiculous, low rent kind of way, and um, they all made these clips, and he edited them together. And I think the scene was John Hamm was Wesley, and Patton Oswalt played Vicini, and of course he was just wanting to eat it up. I'm sure Patton's seen this scene so many times that he could have done it just straight from memory, but he was really trying to tap into it. It's pretty cool. You see it on YouTube. It's pretty cool. A lot of actors I really like in it doing great parts, and others that clearly just did it because it was the fun thing to do at the time. I also find it interesting, like that Robin Wright just has to kind of sit there. Like she doesn't get to do anything. She could be screaming the whole time. She could be interrupting and being like, "What the fuck are you guys talking about? This is so ridiculous." But that's not where this is at. Um, in fact, a lot of this, if a lot of the interaction is just like there's not a lot of interplay that works between the three. It has to be like specifically two, and then one interjects, but back to the two. But this wouldn't have worked if she kept chiming in. We just got to be here with the two of them. I'm gonna love the aspects of comedy this where it's just about breaking the tension with something. Uh, this movie has that in spades. You never get involved in a land war in Asia line to me is like the I think the reason why it's so funny is because I in the back of my mind think it's anachronistic. I think it's like some weird meta thing about this movie. But I don't know, that might have been really good practical advice even back whenever this time was. I'm not really too aware of the history of invasions of uh, Asia other than just by a couple of empires, but I guess maybe that was the most well known. It just seems anachronistic because I don't know, my, my knowledge of basically people invading Russia during the early 1900s. That's what I think of it. It's odorless and tasteless, but I know this is iocane because it's the only poison I know to be odorless and tasteless. The put out line. I should be very put out, followed by the horns, and it's why Sarandon makes this work because he's clearly subtly just being this douchebag, but he's not over the top. It's never over the top. He's like right there. It just makes it so funny. There they. Here's what they get together. Now, for the sake of our understanding, like when we watch this, I we don't see the 5 years in between when he left and when they made the announcement that she was going to be engaged to Humperdinck. Like we don't experience that level of time. Literally, we see him gone. Basically, we see him again looking the same, except he has a little pencil mustache, right? Um, so I would be able to tell even if this guy, if I turned around in the amount of time I experienced this, if I turned around and I see basically the same person, but he's wearing a mask and he has a pencil mustache, I could be like, "Oh, I know who that is." But if it had been 5 years, if it had been 5 years and I was basically told and to believe by everything that he was dead, would I recognize him? Would I recognize anybody that I believed in my heart to no longer exist? Even if they did literally look exactly the same from the chin up, except a mustache. But oh, it's possible. I think everybody got fucked up when they saw Zoe Deschanel without bangs. So. But she never forgot that line that made her fucking go sploosh. Well, anybody that just came in to watch Buttercup and Wesley are about to tumble down or 39 minutes into the movie, if you want to join, Wesley just gave up the ghost to be as you wish. He's tumbling down the hill. These poor stunt people that take this. There's really no other way to do it than just to do it. And look at the incline of this fucking hill. That is steep. Fire swamp scene and coming up. It's honest. Here you go. Here's the book cover. Luckily, he was wearing that do rag, so his hair didn't become so disheveled, huh? It's even better now. And then we almost forget about Fred Savage and Grandpa, and then he's like, "All right, let's just take that moment and hit that joke one more time." I always found it interesting that he said that because he knows that that's where the fire swamp is. If that was kind of his intention, like he almost seems like he meant to go this way. He's just like, oh yeah, I'll be in the fire swamp, and he knows about what the dangers are. Um, you almost wonder if this was an accident, if this truly was an accident, or he was like, oh yeah, I was going to go to the fire swamp so they wouldn't try to chase us. You know, a lot of honesty here with the. Looks like he's on. They're on Dagobah. See him. I mean, he's literally handling the thing on fire. That is his hands. I feel like they keep gelling his hair back more and more. Okay, this is actually the one thing that I would yield in that you can use a young actor to do the story of when Wesley leaves and the intervening 5 years where he gets taken by the Dread Pirate Roberts, where he's living that life, where he's learning how to do all this all the way up to that point. Hollywood, don't fucking listen to me. I wouldn't be too dissatisfied with that kind of story. I wouldn't want to see a legacy sequel where everybody's just older, but that seems like a compelling story. That seems interesting. Uh, to either tell that story or get somebody that plays Inigo Montoya to do the spin-off where he goes and is the Dread Pirate Roberts or whatever. But I don't know if anybody would be doing that accent anymore. I'm trying to get I think he was definitely an ad lib. I do wonder about this scene and how they practically did that. I'd like to. I have to look that up. On how they get them down and then keep that. So that's a little person in a costume. Get the honesty. They're like, "Dude, we can't afford animatronic. Nothing. Just get." This is before the massive strike of little peoples to get more recognition and better jobs. This is before Peter Dinklage came changed the game. I'm always intrigued by this part because typically in these parts of the story where somebody sees something, there's the turn their head or I don't want to alarm you, but blah 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 blah. Um, that come with that stress, and obviously this scene where he's fighting them, but the the fact that he sees the threat and he's looking at the threat, but he never tells her. He tries to insulate her from that, to make sure she's not scared or whatever the case may be, and he just kind of chooses to ignore it until it becomes a problem, which may be a great indictment of you know of men in general. But I always find it interesting because he sees it and he's like, I'm not going to tell her. I'm just going to try to get her to move along through this as soon as we can, and hopefully they don't come near us. And so she never has to know, and it never has to be, you know. And then it ends up obviously becoming this. And he ends up helping. Now it's battle damage, Wesley. Uh oh, you got the bloody shoulder exposed. The score helping out is so funny. With each jab, horns again, fantasy horns. It's all about horns. Oh my god, you just you just killed that 80-pound rat. Oh, that's so terrible. Oh, I went to the other side. That's great. Again, it's such a vaudeville. It's a very vaudevillian, I will say, type of line. You surrender to me. Death first. Death first probably already is a metal band. Uh, Rob Reiner said when he made Spinal Tap that he was like, I'm going to try to put Christopher Guest in every movie. He put him in this. He put him in A Few Good Men. He's great. One of the things I like about again about Rob Reiner, not just that he casts seemingly always the best person for the role, is that it seems like with a lot of directors, especially in the last like 20 years, like they all got like these very small packs of people that they just seem to cast in a bunch of stuff. Like they're just in every single movie, and they're like, if you see this director, this actor is fairly ubiquitous. I'll leave you guys to figure out some of those combinations. Obviously, it's like Tim Burton and Johnny Depp, and it's Scorsese and fucking DiCaprio for so long. Like they just kind of have these small groups of players. But Rob Reiner, although he had some people that have appeared in a few, the people that starred in his movies, it was like he was always trying to get new people, and he was never afraid to get a new actor that he never worked with before, to come in and be the helm or be at the helm of the whole thing. So I like that about him. Is there's not like the actor that you can associate with his career because he was willing to go out there and work with so many different people. It's pretty dope. I like that. Don't even think about trying. I need to toss it out. I thought this was Johnny. I thought this was fucking Johnny Coltrane for the longest time, the guy who played Hagrid, and I couldn't have been convinced otherwise. But it's not. It's not him. She kind of looks like Kevin Smith in this, or old fat Kevin Smith. You're Sarandon just being. And oddly enough, where I keep talking about how everybody's almost borderline over the top. Christopher Guest is actually the opposite. Everything he does is underneath. Everything he does is subtle. He clearly doesn't show that much emotion until he's getting fucking murdered. So this line coming out, the love her as I loved her, and there will be joy. I want to, I want to get that on something because it's so ridiculous. And you can, I want you when you watch this, watch him deliver the line, and he he almost smiles. You can almost see him about to crack up. Like it's just a split second because it's such a fucking dumb line. It's so ridiculous. Reminds me of my buddy RJ. My friend RJ. When I was in high school, I would come home sometimes, make grilled cheese, and watch this movie, and I would invite friends over. Now this bitch, the boo bitch, frightened me. When I was a kid, it was her and Large Marge from Pee-wee's Big Adventure just scared the shit out of me. And now just, I mean, it's kind of uncomfortable, but it's a great scene because it is frightening. I'd wake up in a panic. Ooh. A trifle simple, he says. Again, I'll say vaudevillian, but kind of tending towards sort of it's there's a lot of old school Hollywood, I'll say, that's attached from this the type of script. It's I enjoy it, is what I'm saying. One of my favorite, uh, completely ridiculous devices is just it's the water pump, but I'm sucking life out of you. Like there's nothing that is explained about this that makes it make sense. It's you get that. It's this is a water pump, except I'm taking life out of you, and that's it. And you have to buy it or not. And you hope at this point in the movie that you're so sucked into the world they built, where you're like, I can buy something completely fucking dumb and ridiculous. So we're like, okay, okay. Instead of sucking water, it sucks life. It's fine. It's whatever. Like you do have to suspend the disbelief here probably more than any other point in the movie. It's so ridiculous. Like we're not going to try to explain it with any type of thing. It's just going to be, this is this and that's that. It sucked a year of your life away. But he may one day go as high as, but it goes all the way to 50. Like clearly the machine is overbuilt as far as life sucking capability goes. He might go as high as 10 or whatever, but it goes to 50. It goes to 11. It was 5. And one day goes as high as 5. But so he's afraid to go as high as 5, but it goes 10 times more than that. Thieves Forest. Again, there's there's so much about the movie that can build like a cool world where there's other things in it, and they let you know that these things exist, but you don't really get to live in it at any point. But they're in the thieves' forest, clearing it out, and we're about to get back to you know our lovable villains. Really, like there's so much world to this that could be interesting. Spaniard, Spaniard giving us some trouble. For half. Great device. Go back to the beginning. How does he end up back in Florin? Because he's got to go back to the beginning. That's how he gets to keep back in contact with these characters. Hey, it works. Go back to the beginning. And here comes the Campbell's commercial. The shot, the overhead shot of the soup, it's like a fucking commercial. I mean, obviously, wouldn't keep the rest of the part where he's like falling. That right there. I was like, oh, that's hardy. That shot. So again, we see, Inigo's still motivated by his vengeance. Like he's not joining with the Man in Black later to, do anything and to help. He's literally offering him the possibility of helping his bride or helping his girl to help him get to the guy. So, as much as we come to love Inigo in this entire time, he's still entirely self-motivated at this point. He's still entirely moved by his desire for vengeance, so it still makes him an anti-hero. Again, he's not the good guy in the sense that he believes in the things that we believe in. He actually only believes in vengeance, as far as we know, and that he's respectful to other people who possess skill, as anybody in the killing business does. So he's still kind of an anti-hero. He's still got his own code, right? Uh-oh, caught up in the lie. Oh yeah. Hmm. Slimiest. Uh-oh, here comes the way to Fitty. No, I would never go as high as five. Maybe, but I would go higher. What's that? Wheelbarrow with the albino head. The supernatural, guided by the spirit of the Father. This is actually a pretty cool shot where there's kind of a halo through the trees, that comes over him that he's about to have this um moment that he's overtaken by spirit. That's actually the halo of, open light is actually pretty cool. That's a great shot. He believes that he doubts, like he doubts first, or he's like, "Oh shit, I didn't really do anything," and then he's wrong. It kind of fuels the fire for him to get to Miracle Max and everything else. Got back. This scene actually is kind of cool to me because I remember there's this idea of the youth always kind of scoffing at the older generation. I remember I've shown my daughter Evelyn so many things. I'm like, hey, I think this is really cool. And if I just mentioned the fact that I enjoyed it as a kid, she would just become kind of despondent and dismissive because again, like I'm just not cool and I don't get it and it's all old and it's blah blah blah. But most of the things I show her, she ends up becoming very interested in or becoming a fan of and asks about her, wants to see at a later time. And the one thing I was kind of offended about is I showed her the Fellowship of the Ring and she compared Gandalf to Dumbledore, which kind of here comes Miracle Max, Billy Crystal in the makeup, Carol Kane in this scene, fantastic. You have a boot squad, yeah. Quick, right? Vaudeville. You rush a miracle, you get rotten miracles. He's trying to bullshit him. So he plays the hand again. So because he tells him he he says like, "Hey, I'm trying to sell you the emotionally attached, dedicated mentality to this whole thing, and you don't believe me because you're right. I don't believe in any of that. It's not about the crippled whatever that he's doing because he doesn't associate with that. He just knows about the motivation for his self-interest, and that honesty now is actually helping him. And then Max says, like, your first story's better. Yeah, because you want to believe in that. You don't want to believe that it's just for self-interest, but he appreciates the honesty. To Blave. allegedly Reiner had to just kind of turn on the cameras and walk out during this because he could never stop getting busted up by Billy Crystal. Carol Kane. Now, in a George Lucas movie or the Spielberg or whatever the case is, they would do something in this part and you would see an effect shot. Like you would see him either he'd pour something that they would try to make, you know, uh, vibrant or magical. They would try to show something. In the I'll talk about the honesty of this movie shows that they don't have it like the practical effects has to carry the whole thing. They don't have any of that computer anything at the end. They don't have any animators. They're just doing what this is. So they just coat the thing in chocolate and get them on. There's no part where they poured the thing in that it does. None of that happens in this movie. Everything is spent elsewhere. Um, but it's a fantasy movie where you still buy all those things because they're selling you the characters, right? They're not selling you the effects of all these things of the magic. There's no puff of smoke. There's no metamorphosis. There's no, you know, glitzy things to show you how everything works. There are so limited effects in this movie, and it's just about the scenery of where you are, the fact that you're in a wooded area, that you're on these things, that you're wearing these costumes, that you have these things. It's like living in the world. And yeah, so they're not seeing, they're not reacting to, and that's what makes the performance is so real and so great because there's nothing they have to there's no tennis ball on a stick that they have to pretend to do whatever like everything they're doing is literally right in front of them. Honestly, the older I get, I find that kind of cute too. The 50 years, right? It allegedly took more years off than he has. And when he comes to after near death, the first things he asks is, "Who are you? Where am I?" And where's Buttercup? The first thing he does essentially is, he wants to know where this woman that he loves is. Is it did he regain his memory, or is it just that he's back and he cares for her so much he just wants to know where she's at? Like that's priority number one. This oh, I'm doing it. Sorry. Head jiggle. The physical comedy of moving the head, like it's there's so many points of being good comics that you have to be in this movie, whether delivery of the lines or being physical that makes it work. And I think that's another cool thing about it is that the performances are not two dimensional. They can do a lot of things. So Miracle Max has had a Holocaust cloak that was 8 times too big for him. I hope we win. He, not infantile. I'm not going to say infantile. It's his charm. The charm of Fezzik is that he's innocent. I'll say, and I hope we win. Like he kind of represents all the positivity on the group, and that's what makes him so great. And the fact that not only is he the positivity of the group, but he's the largest part of that group, right? So again, it's very endearing. There, the characters of this movie, I think, are what endear me most to it. And when you love the characters so much, you kind of look into the things they say. Feels good. Here comes the wedding scene. Probably the most quoted thing in this movie, and this dude is here for literally 2 minutes. You know, love true. This movie is mostly associated with love, true love, and it's just this, and it's it. Marriage. Like, this is a comedy thing, and it's literally just about how he's saying it. There's nothing he's saying that's funny. There's nothing he's saying that's humorous at all. It's just the way he's saying it. Sorry, I'm doing it again. So treasure your love. It's like Fezzik's Chewbacca. Princess Baja. Carrie Ellis in this scene where he's just trying to be so limp but move is such an underrated physical performance. I think he's so good. Oh, Manny Patinkin's so handy with like the no look stab and everything. He's so fluid, so good. It's the beginning. Manny tells the story of when he was making this movie. His dad either had died of cancer, or was going through cancer treatment, and so um, he might have already passed. But he says when he's filming the scene, you know, he's so motivated by that the delivery and everything. It helps him create this scene because he's motivated by that. What happened with his dad? Um, that he brings that to the performance and he's trying to get over. And it's actually, you know, to know that it doesn't make it more compelling, I don't think, but it's cool. Like when you're looking at like, wow, he really nailed it, and you just kind of understand a little bit more about why that. Like, okay, well, the best type of acting is not really at all, right? He's kind of living that emotion. It's hard to believe that such a sweet old man could be the father of such a dick like Prince Humperdinck, right? And the score carries these moments, like it helps build up as much as the action does. What a great delivery here. Oh, no. When he comes, again, he undersells it. He doesn't go with Helmut. I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard. Helmut. Like he's great. It's understated. He's into it seriously. Shortage of perfect breast line. I was a kid, obviously, when I saw this movie the most, and I never really got that line. And then I got older, and I get when you become a teenager and you rediscover this movie, you appreciate a lot of the jokes a little bit more. Pity damage yours. Now you could wager keeping the knife in while attempting to fight might have been the better move because it might keep your body from bleeding out from that area, maybe. And is he just get stabbed two more times? But now taken by the spirit, by his rage. I love this scene so much because to me, he's just doing the line every way he's ever wanted to do it. If he ever faced this moment, would I say it fast? Would I say it slow? Would I scream it at him? And the way he says it, he's like, oh, this is me. I think I'm always going to say it to you this way, or this way, this way. And now it's the phrase that keeps him alive. It's the only thing that's keeping him going. The only thing that motivates him is to deliver that and destroy. I did it again. Sorry. Murder. Technicality. So ridiculous. To the pain. To the pain. Probably an emo band name. This delivery is great. Well, Echo, your perfect ears. Sure, what? That's all one cut. All right, I'm a little intimidated. Disposable pig. Vomitus mass. I just learned today that vomitus with no O, just vomit US is the product that is vomit. So there's a noun vomitus, and then there is an adjective vomitus. I just learned that. Physical performance. Come on up here. Well, you bitches were out seeking vengeance or doing whatever. I came to get our escape plan. He's the driver. Hello, lady. The score that comes in very sweet. Now we have a stringed instrument that's not a bow, but something, and then synths. Clearly, you can tell there's supposed to be something else. It was great. Again, my motivation is complete. My whole life has been about vengeance, and I achieved that. So, what is the point of the rest of it? Motivations by something so finite. Okay, but let's make this joke one more time. I'm really sure we enjoyed it. Oh, reading a book an entire day like it is like it from morning to night. I did that My former wife Kim was in labor. We went in on September 1st to get induced to have Evelyn. Uh, she didn't get born until 10 at night the next day. And at one point, I read her the entire novel of Holes. Like it took several hours to do. The nurses were quite amazed. And that's a fairly short one. It was probably like 200 pages. And there it is. It ends with "As You Wish." All right. Well, thank you. I think Sam, maybe my mom was on there for a second. A couple people that popped in. I don't know if he had any value in this, but maybe I'll do something next week and you know see about continue to do this. I don't know. Hopefully, have a good night. All right. Bye.